I am so excited. Got one of my favorite songs playing in the background, Man on a Mission. Yep, Man on a Mission. So anyway, I have to tell you, it helps to have something that inspires you to listen to or whatever. I was watching Trandon Groskos, and he was at the gym walking and watching TVs, and I was just thinking, all of us need something that help inspire us. Hang on just a second. Alexa, pause music. All right. So one of the things that we have been talking about, and this is driving inspector success, is KPIs that you need to have in your business. And KPIs stand for key performance indicators. The first time I heard somebody say KPI, I went, oh, okay, what does that mean? And my wife, every time I go KPI or AATP or PDI or whatever, she goes, you got to tell people what that means, Mike. And so she's absolutely right. She's always right. So what I wanted to share with you, and we shared the last couple of days, we shared some of the KPIs for your client coordinators, the people that answer the phones for you. And one of the things that we talked about was the difference between lead KPIs, which happen and you have 100% control over, to lag KPIs, which are basically, what were the results of your lead KPIs. And you don't have a lot of control. When you get better, you exercise some control on the lag KPIs, but they're really a measurement of your results, okay? And so for your inspectors, it's the same kind of things that you want to try to make sure that you can do with this. So there's a number of things, and I have a whole list. I'm no way I can go through all of them right now, but I want to give you a few of the lead KPIs that we teach our inspectors and that I have used personally as an inspector, so that you can see and do a lot of great stuff with all that. It's very simple. It's very straightforward. Let's start with, before I get to the house, I try to prepare all of my paperwork. I have some inspectors go, well, I don't prepare my paperwork until the buyers show up. I'm going, okay, that's a little pessimistic, but I like to prepare all my paperwork. I also like to, because I used to do as many as 3 home inspections in a day. I used to create a little 3x5 card, and I would post it in my car, and it would have first inspection, second inspection, third. It would have the time, it would have the people, it would have phone numbers on it, it would have, the address, and of course the city and all that great stuff. So right there in front of me, I knew what my day looked like. And if I had what we would call a donut day, where I had an inspection up here, and then I had nothing, and then I had another inspection, then what I might do is write in there, visit such and such office, all right, or work on such and such program. And so by writing all those things out, it gave me a better way to focus on what I was going to accomplish that day. That is a lead process to help make sure that I'm being successful every single day. The other thing that I tell inspectors all the time is that over a period of doing over 10,000 plus inspections, and of course my company doing over 100,000 inspections, one of the lead KPIs that I tried to make sure that we were doing was to arrive 30 minutes early to the inspection. A lot of times inspectors go, oh yeah, I arrive an hour early, too early. Trust me, been there, done that, got chewed out too many times, all right? And then a lot of them would go, oh yeah, I try to arrive 10 minutes early or 15 minutes early. And that's better than nothing, but it's still, I'm going to tell you, you can get some pretty cool stuff done by arriving 30 minutes early to the inspection instead of that. And that is a lead KPI. How often do you arrive 30 minutes early to an inspection? By the way, when people get used to the fact that you do that, you play at that level, amazing things happen. I remember I was running down the road one day. It was about 12 o'clock, and I got a call from a real estate agent, and they went, hey, Mike, I'm standing at this inspection, and you're not here yet. You're normally here 30 minutes early, so I just wanted to call and make sure everything was okay. And I had no inspection on my schedule. None. I don't know what he was talking about. So I said, that's strange because I don't have an inspection on my schedule book. However, I do have nothing scheduled during this time slot. Get the address and everything, and I still showed up by 12:30 instead of showing up half an hour early. One of the reasons we try to do that is if our guys have a flat tire, that takes about 30 minutes, probably less. to change a flat and get yourself back on the road and everything. So by having these systems in place, then we understand, the whole process of making sure that we have lead things. I created one thing that we call the crow's house. And it was my way of making sure that our inspectors knew all of these things that they had to get done during the inspection. And I'm an inspector at heart, so that list is, again, a mile long. And what we try to do is grade every inspector on each of those items. So every one of our inspectors, before we release them onto the public, we don't just hire somebody, and I don't care if they've been in business for 2 years. We don't just release them onto the public. They have to go through training. They have to pass what I call a crow's house and make sure that they are going to do the inspection the way we have designed it so that the buyer has the best experience possible. It's really that simple. So do they arrive half an hour early? How long do they take to do the inspection? Sometimes people go, oh, yeah, it takes 45 minutes to do an inspection. I don't know what kind of inspection they're doing, but I can't do one in 45 minutes. One of the things we figured out was it takes us about an hour per 1,000 square feet plus half an hour. And that's usually because we're producing the report on site and everything. But it takes us about an hour per 1,000 square feet to do an inspection. So if it's a 2,500 square foot home, we know that house is going to take us between 2.5 to 3 hours to do the inspection. The other thing that we also knew was that if the home got bigger, now we needed to eat up more than one time slot to do this. Now, I'm going to tell you another secret. Some inspectors just schedule whenever they want. In the beginning, we did the same thing. Oh, you want that at 10 o'clock? Not a problem. But then the challenge became is that we couldn't schedule 3 inspections in one day. And yes, if you're up north and you have homes that are much bigger and more challenging, then yeah, doing 3 a day probably doesn't happen. Okay. But by scheduling at 8 or 8:30 and then 12 or 12:30 and then 4 o'clock, we literally could get 3 inspections a day in when it was me. Now, I'm also going to tell you, as we started bringing on more inspectors and different inspectors, we found that most of them could not do 3 a day and do a good job. We also tried to make sure that we balance that out. So we have some inspectors that can do 3 a day, and we have some inspectors that can only do 2 a day. All right. And yet we still try to schedule those in the slots so that if we have to slide one sideways to another inspector, that we can do that as well. So there's a lot of different things. I'm going to look over my list here real quick. So one of the things is that, what are you doing to prepare yourself so that you can do additional type of inspections? That is a lead KPI. Can you do a mold inspection? Can you do sprinkler, swimming pool, termite inspection? And getting yourself lined up to be able to do that. Those are very, very important with that. The other thing that we try to do is make sure that all of our inspectors know what I call and I used to call it the 17-point introduction, and now I think it's 18, maybe even 19-point introduction because Jonathan and our team has added 1 or 2 points to make the inspection go smoother. And we need to make sure that every single inspector is doing the same introduction each and every time on every inspection. So these are like lead KPIs, can they do this? Okay. Are we measuring this? At every inspector meeting that we have, Jonathan literally has everybody repeat the perfect introduction every single time so that we go through that and so we can have that. Now, there are some other things that we look at on the lag side of this. And one is, for instance, is what is our inspector's capacity? So when we take a look at an inspector for a month, and we want to try to keep that inspector as busy as we possibly can. One, it's good for him and it's good for us. All right. And if an inspector is doing, say, 50% of his time slots are being used for inspections and he's off the other 50% of the time, we start looking around going, what did we do wrong? All right. So by measuring our inspector capacity every year, that is very important. And I'm going to go back even further than that. Now, we've been planning out the whole next year. And when you plan out your whole year, one of the things we do is we start figuring out how much inspection capacity we will have for that year. And we know we're going to do somewhere between 5,000 and 6,000 inspections. And we know there's a bell curve. So we're very busy in June, not quite as busy in December. And so we need to know how many inspectors are we going to need in June to be able to do the number of inspections. Otherwise, we just cap out and now we can't do all of the inspections that we have available at that time. A couple of things you could do, by the way, in June is one, charge more. believe it or not. Some inspectors think they can't, and they think they should charge the same thing in January that they do in June. Trust me, nobody in any real industry does that anymore. Okay. Disney charges more per day on some days than they do on other days. So when there's a slow time, they charge less. I love that. When you fly on an airplane, they charge more as capacity gets less and less and less and less. They charge more per that seat. So the further out that you book, the better off you will be. And so it's amazing. And then home inspectors don't think that they could do the same thing. So you've got to be able to do that, figure out what your capacity is. So you can do that. You should do it for yourself too. How many inspections can you do in June versus, what your capacity is? Are you 100% at capacity? Or are you at, 50% capacity because you just don't have enough business, say, in January? And, a lot of inspectors go, well, it's January, I'm not as busy, all that. That's great. That's great. Wouldn't it be great, though, if you were, booked at 80% in January and 100% in June? And a lot of times what happens is after you start you doing the big bang marketing and you're out there and you've got all that stuff working for you, we find that inspectors do that. And, so I also measure on some of the KPIs, how many inspections are we doing per year? And at 200 inspections per year, because of your capacity and just your brain width, your bandwidth on different things, we start realizing, okay, we've got to hire a part-time marketing person. These are lead KPIs and lag KPIs at the same time, because we need to make sure we've got that marketing person out there. At 300 inspections a year, then we want to make sure that we have somebody answering the phones besides us, because at 300, we're so busy and nobody wants to hear you take an inspection while you're on an inspection with them. I mean, maybe they will be okay with it, but they don't really want to see that. And just imagine you have a plumber that's out there working at your house and you're standing there watching him work, and he wants you to be able to see everything that's going on, which we do as inspectors, right? Which is a little different. And all of a sudden he's going, oh, hang on a second, I got to take this phone call. And he walks up and he takes a phone call and he schedules another job. You go, okay. Now imagine he does that 3 or 4 times during your service call. As an inspector, you do that 3 or 4 times during a service call, and that's a problem. So you've got to make sure you have a backup call center on top of all that. By the way, 200 inspections a year is about 17 a month, okay? And 300 a year is about 25 a month. And then once you get to about 400 inspections a year, or about 30, 35 inspections a month, then what happens is that you realize now you really have the capacity to hire another inspector. And I will tell you, I used to do 500, 600 inspections a year. My dad did 600 plus inspections a year. And we were having a lot of fun. We were making a lot of money. And then I realized I don't want to do this every single day the rest of my life. So that was one of the reasons I started going through all these pieces, and I started creating all these systems that you're hearing about. You can do exactly the same thing. So one of the other things that's a lag KPI for us is we measure how many unhappy campers we have, and we measure how much money we've spent out on problems. Now, I think it's kind of funny. As a single man operation, you probably spend next to nothing all year long on any problem. And that works out great as you're a single man operation. But I will tell you, for those of you that are getting to 3, 4, 5, 6 inspectors, by the time you get to 6 inspectors, you need to make sure you also have a system for handling unhappy campers. And you need to know that if you're spending out more than this much in the unhappy camper field, then that's a problem. We know that we should never spend really more than 1% of our gross revenue fixing problems. Really not that much, until you realize that we're a $3 million company, and that number becomes somewhat significant. And we know that if it hits 2%, something's wrong, and it's probably something wrong in the lead KPI. And so we have to work our way from there. So one of our lead KPIs, for instance, is that all of our inspectors come into the office every 2 weeks, and we go through basics with them. And then our inspectors that have 1,000 or less inspections or are in training, they come in every single week for training. These are lead KPIs. Did they go to this meeting? Did they learn this? And every night we have them send us an end of day report to say, hey, here's 2 things or 3 things or 4 things that I learned. Pretty simple stuff. And then you can read through those. And a lot of times what will happen is they'll say, oh, I found out that GFCIs are needed here, here, and here, but not here and here. And you're going, oh, yeah, they are. Okay. And you get to fix that because you had a lead KPI that gave you information before it became a problem in the field. That's why it's a lead KPI. Well, I hope that helps a little bit for some of you out there. We have a tremendous amount of things that are coming up. We have homeinspectormission.com. Go out there and join us March 10th, 11th, and 12th for our next great event. We already have a number of people signed up for that. It's going to be incredible. I'm adding new topics to that. In fact, I've decided to take this whole KPI talk and have me and Krista and Jonathan go through it so that you can have all of these pieces. And a lot of these KPIs are talked about every single week in our business at what we call a diamond meeting that Jonathan put into place and going to set it up so that you can, if you want, see what a recording of that diamond meeting looks like. You'll see that at homeinspectormission.com for Mission 25. The other thing is I just finished doing a great webinar on winter marketing, and we don't put those recordings out anywhere. If you would love to come and hear what winter marketing can do, what types of winter marketing can do. Plus, I also went into long-term marketing, marketing that will be there for the rest of the year for you. Then that's a pretty cool thing. Wednesday night, I'm going to be doing that. And you can go out to coachblueprint.com/winter, coachblueprint.com/winter, and sign up for that webinar. I hope you'll join us there. We are going to have a lot of fun and you're going to learn a lot of great stuff. And I'm going to make one of the best offers you've ever seen so that you can, one, get the big bang marketing and so that you can also understand, how to get more inspections this time of year. Well, this is Mike Crow. And as I love to say, be successful and be around those that are successful. Be successful and be around those that are successful because the more money you make, the more people you can help. Have a great day, everybody. Bye-bye.